It's a different approach. A couple of things you might want to know, but first I'm going to bring up our guest, Dr. Julia Bock. Are you here, Julia? There she is. Please welcome our guest this evening, Dr. Julia Bock. And our other guest, Clara from Paris, who is the screenwriter. We are calling her on Skype.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
Keep trying. Okay, meantime, we'll start our conversation. Do you need this? Just so you know, here are a few of the other films that we've shown over the years that are Holocaust and post-Holocaust themed films. And so that to remind us of the different approaches of different directors and different screenwriters. We began in 1998, this festival, with Life is Beautiful, the Roberto Benigni film. Ah, there she is. Hello. Does she hear me? Okay, hold on, let me see if I get you on speaker. Is she on speaker? Can you hear me, Clara?
Right.
Yes?
Yes, I can.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This is much better.
We see you, and the audience is here, and everybody, I'm sure, is interested in knowing a great deal about the film we've just finished seeing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, I was killing the sound on the computer because there was a bad echo, but now I think it's good.
Okay. We have with us Dr. Julia Bock, who is an expert on the Hungarian Holocaust history. If you'd like to say hello.
Hi. Yes, hello. Hi, Professor Bock. It's very nice to not seeing you, but hear you at least.
Okay.
We have some questions. First, how did you and Laszlo Nemes develop the character of Saul Ausländer? Is he completely fictional, or were aspects of his personality inspired by other things?
Well, actually, it started for the director in 2005 when he found this collection of manuscripts. It's in French. It's called the Scrolls of Auschwitz, and it's a collection of texts that were written by men of the Sonderkommando. They would write on whatever they could find, usually cement bags, and they would bury these texts around the crematorium. And these texts, a part of these texts, probably 10% of them, were found after the war. And so 10 years ago, they were written in Yiddish, and these texts got translated into French. And that's how the director came upon them. And it gave him the urge to actually make a film that would happen in the Sonderkommando. As to Saul, actually, it was a very long process for him. And it's only 5 years later that he came up with the idea of the story. That's when actually he came to me and told me that I knew that he had been, that idea had been growing within him. And in 2010, he came to me and he told me, I know what story I want to tell that will happen in the Sonderkommando, and it was the story of Saul. So the story of a man finding the body of a boy he identifies as his son is inspired from some testimonies in which you can read that members of the Sonderkommando actually, some of them would bury people from their family. So that historically happened, obviously. But the idea of a man struggling to bury his son or just the body, because whether or not it's his son is quite ambiguous, that's of course pure fiction. But it's based on a historical research, obviously, but that is the fictional part of the film, I would say. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. What I'd like to know now, now you are young. What motivated, what is your background for the audience? What is your background?
Yes, of course. Laszlo picked me for, I think, because I was a writer, I'm a novelist. I'm also a researcher. So I wrote a PhD on Hungarian Jewish writers, for example. I'm currently writing a book on Imre Kertész, for example, who's this very important writer in Hungary who survived the camps. He was deported to Auschwitz when he was 15, and he wrote a major literary work. So I guess, the fact that I was trained as a researcher was also a reason why he decided to work with me. But in the end, it was really because he believed that I could write with him. So I think that's it. So aside being a scriptwriter, I'm an academic. Now I live in Prague, and I run a research center over there in humanities and social sciences. And there's no such thing as Jewish studies in France, but from a more general point of view, I guess that would be my education.
I'm going to ask our guest here, Professor Bock, and I'm going to hold the phone that you can hear, so that you can hear the question and the answer as well. Okay?
Of course.
Julia, as per our conversation yesterday, you described this film as being very subtle and personal, and that it would teach younger members of an audience in a different way than, for example, Schindler's List. Can you elaborate?
Yes, what captured me was we did not see the general story. The film shows a very personal way how one man survived or did not survive. What did he think during this very inhuman process? And what I saw, that during this annihilation process, that is not possible to have a person a will, what he will do. But it's very human that he did, despite of everything. Everybody had to die, but he wanted to bury a boy. Not even sure that it was his son, but he decided that he will do something, not alone because he got help from other people, but that's what captured me, that despite of everything, it's very human thing, that it's not logical. Everybody has to die, and he decided that is his will and he has to do it. And I think that's why I think this film is not just important, but but new. That is the second time I see the movie, and interestingly, first time when I saw it was something that what I saw in other movies was the visual disturbing images, and I did not remember how disturbing it was, and now I had to face that it was disturbing enough. But again, it is the newest thing was for me that we went to together into a mind of a person who was at the Sonderkommando unit.
So that brings us to the question of the actor. This actor who portrayed Saul. How did you find him, and why did he get the part?
Well, thank you very much for what you said. I think what was very important for us all was to make a film that would be about a person and to refrain from a panoramic survival or resistance story, which is a traditional way of fictions dealing with the Holocaust, and the question of the restricted point of view was extremely important. We wanted to create an experience, to have to help building a connection that is based on empathy between the viewers and the main character. And so, I wasn't the cast director. Laszlo worked very well with our cast director, who's a Hungarian. And it's actually interesting. Geza, the main actor, Geza Röhrig, is not an actor, as you probably already know. He's a poet who's lived in New York for several years now. He's Hungarian. And actually, he was casted for another part. He was cast at first for Abraham's part, and then Laszlo realized that Geza was exactly who he needed, because he felt we don't want the main actor to act. Actually, we want him to be as human as can be. You know, it didn't need to involve much play. And Laszlo was fascinated by the blend between obstinacy, something very spiritual, and at the same time very obstinate in Geza, and the fact that he often says that Geza is at times handsome, at times ugly, at times, very down to earth, at times very spiritual, and that somehow he's as obsessed as the main character is in the film. And so that's why, it became an obvious choice to us, and it was interesting on the set, because Geza was extremely focused. But he would be better placed to talk about his own experience of the film, obviously. But it's true that the fact that he was not an actor was extremely important, and I think it's one of the fragile strengths of the film. I hope so, at least. But tell me if I didn't answer something that you wanted to know, or...
No, you're doing just fine. Thank you.
Because I can't see you, so I don't know if you're disappointed or...
No, if you can hear the applause, I'll put the...
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now the audience knows they're participating. Do we have any questions in the audience? Would you be willing to take a question? Question from the audience.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Any hands? Questions? Because I have lots. Yes, there's one.
Where was the film shot?
No, hands, please.
Where was the film shot?
The question is, where was the film shot?
Yes, the film was shot in Hungary, actually mainly in the outskirts of Budapest. There was a long research for a good location. It was shot in, I guess 85% at least of the film was shot in one place in a former barrack of the Austro-Hungarian army. And it was interesting because it was in a building that had a structure that enabled the film to be made in a very organic way. So it had these 3 levels that you can see in the film, and so basically it also helped the whole team to focus, because there was a unity of place that was extremely important, and then of course the set designer Laszlo Reich did an amazing job with his team, and that was it. But it was in Hungary, and the river you see is the Danube in Hungary. That's the other place where we were shot. It's 40 kilometers away from the capital.
Thank you. We have another question.
I wanted to ask what the reason is behind the ambiguity, of whether or not that is really his son. Clearly, it seems to be in his mind, but we're supposed to be wondering whether that's true or not.
Did you
Give me
hear that?
what's the thinking behind that.
No.
The question is, what was the reason for the ambiguity about it being his son? Was that deliberate, or why?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was a question that we actually debated a lot all through the various versions of the script, because we had 3 big drafts, subsequent drafts of the script. At first, it started as, being 2 co-writers. Of course, there's a debate. The idea was to actually keep, in the end, this ambiguity, because we thought that actually maybe it's not about the biological filiation that is important. It's rather about, by burying one son, he's trying to bury the son. He's trying to get back to the ground, to rip from the fire, let's say, the symbolical son, like the future, the next generation that is being destroyed. So we thought that the symbolical impact was maybe interesting to keep alive, and that's why there's an ambiguity. And you see in the film, at some point when Abraham attacks Saul and tells him, "You do not have a son," Saul tells him, "Yes, but he's from another woman than my wife." And I do not believe that he's lying at this point. He probably had a son with another woman than his spouse. But whether the boy he identifies as his son is his son, that's left, it's really up to the viewer to make the decision. It's also, I think, for Laszlo, a way to keep the mystery that is at the core, according to him, of cinema. Laszlo also made this film wanting to distance himself from a kind of cinema that overshows, that shows, panoramas, that tries to, show everything. And he believes, and I think he's right, that overshowing, overstatements kill cinema, the magic of cinema. And that's also a way to preserve the mystery that pertains to great films.
Thank you. We have another question. Yes, let's talk about that, because one of the things I noticed in the notes was that the decision was made not to do this digitally, but to shoot this. The question was the technique, the soft focus, the blurriness, the first time I have to admit, when the screen opens with the first shot and it's all blurry, we had been having technical difficulties. I had a panic attack and thought that that we had some problem. And then, of course, our character, Saul, comes into sharp focus. But this was shot in 35 millimeter, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, and there was a decision to deliberately blur out, to keep him in the short distance and him.
Yes, no.
And there was a decision to keep, I don't know who I'm talking to. There was a decision to keep him, to keep our view is basically him and what he sees. Is that about right?
Well, it's really, when Laszlo read this text written by the men of Sonderkommando, these were texts written with the I person. It was written in the first person. And he felt that it was the first time somehow that he had a very personal reading into what was happening. So I think this I person was extremely important in the film. And so basically the choice of leaving things blurry, I would give two answers to that. First, it's part of the language of the film, that you follow Saul, and you have to realize that he's been working as a Sonderkommando for more than 3 months. Sonderkommandos were eliminated every 4 months. They know they will be soon eliminated, and so he became a robot, like all these men who left testimonies.
A robot.
Because there were also survivors of the Sonderkommando who actually talked about this robotic way they had. They shut down, yes, they were switched off somehow. That, they had to do this, all these very routine-like actions, like digging, burying, carrying, washing, and so forth, and they were like robots. And Saul actually doesn't pay attention to the horror surrounding him anymore, and that is why the viewer does not pay attention to the horror. It is also compensated by the sound, obviously, because the sound betrays that there is more to what's going on. But in terms of images, it was also part of this poetics of restraint that I was mentioning before, the restriction to the point of view. The second element of answer that I maybe would be interesting to give is that indeed, when you were talking about the beginning of the film, it's blur, and then appears a face, and appears the point of view through which you will take the journey of this film. So I think somehow it's a way to grip that character, and you're going to grip the character all through the film, except for the very end. But that's another question. Is it? Do you need anything more from me to say, or?
No. We have more questions. So, do we? Yes. Here's one.
Over there and there.
Oh, there's also people waiting on that side. Okay.
What I liked, especially about the movie, and I like the movie a lot, is the fact that, of course, it focuses on the individual. But I have a question, or if you could clarify a bit about the meeting between Saul and the woman in the woman's barracks, from whom he gets the powder.
Okay. Let me just bring you up to snuff on this. He's asked. First, this member of our audience expresses he likes the film very much, and having said that, he wants to know something about the woman. There are actually, until that point, there are no women except the bodies. The woman that we meet in the
He met.
when he goes in
Ella,
Correct.
the woman Ella, who actually,
Explosive.
Correct.
she actually calls him by the name, Shaul.
Correct,
So they knew
correct.
each other from before for some
they-
reason.
she knows his name, although he had said earlier that he didn't know her. So what was the story with that encounter? Am I right? That was what you wanted to know.
So basically, it's a good question because we restrain ourselves as well in the script and then in the film in terms of the backstories on the with the SID
Double.
that we had from the reading of the testimonies that somehow the past doesn't matter anymore when you are working in a Sonderkommando because of this switching off somehow that I was mentioning before. As for Ella, so there are two things that I could say. The first one is that indeed, in terms of the story, Shaul lies when he says that he doesn't know her. He probably knew her from before the deportation. They're probably from the same village or the same city, rather. And the reason why he lies is because the only thing that he wants to do is actually bury his son. So he needs to find the means to do that. And Ella is part of the resistance. She's providing the powder that should be used to blow the crematorium. That historically was blown, actually. Crematorium number 4 was blown during the revolt of the Sonderkommando on 7 October 1944. So this is completely historical, the participation of women in this one and only insurrection at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Then the story between Shaul and Ella, I can't say much more than that, except that somehow this scene was a way probably for us to show that Shaul says goodbye to the surviving. I wouldn't even say the living, but the surviving. He's not looking into surviving himself anymore. He's on the side of the dead already. That's the idea. So you can see that she's full of expectations. She wants to talk to him. She wants to touch his hand, but he doesn't let her do that. He pushes her back somehow, and he's out of this relationship, if there was any, between the two of them.
Thank you. That answers that question. And we have one more? Three more. We have several more.
I
Yes.
thought it was a very interesting, I thought it was an extremely interesting Holocaust film, unlike any I've ever seen.
The comment is that it's an extremely interesting film on the Holocaust, unlike any she has ever seen before.
I found it auditorily cacophonic, full of cacophony, and visually I found it incredibly chaotic. And I was unable to really empathize with him because I really felt, because of all the close-ups and everything and the noise and the thing, that I really was there. It wasn't that I was empathizing with some stranger, but I felt I was in the midst of that craziness that these people lived in every day.
Okay, I've kept you waiting on this question, but is there a question?
So I wanted to know if that was part of their...
What? Okay. The comment is that because of the tremendous amount of confusion and chaos and through the noise only reinforced by the cacophony going on in the blurred areas of our site, our member of the audience felt less empathic. Would that be a way? Did not feel as connected.
I was there.
She felt like she was there, but she was not empathizing with the character as sometimes you will have in other films of this nature. Is that about right? Yeah. Was that deliberate?
Well, I think for Laszlo it was very important to have the viewer participate, not being offered, well, the idea was to give a space to the viewer within the film. So the being there was indeed his main intention. The sound and the blur, everything that pertains to suggestion, the fact that somehow you do not see from above the complex, the crematorium or its surroundings, it's for you to reconstruct somehow. That means that you have to engage actively in the film. And actually, we believe that this film helps the viewer projecting onto it and taking part in it. And that's what we wanted to do. Somehow we wanted, we very much read history books, and we were extremely helped by the work of historians, and we also consulted historians to make this film. But at the same time, we didn't want to give a history lesson. I think we wanted to give something more primal, to get out of big figures that may not mean much to people, and yes, to make them be there and take part in the film through their imagination, and then because it's a very sensorial experience, I think, when you see the film, especially the first time. But we believe that the film haunts actually the viewers after they see it. And that's when the reflection starts. And we believe it's important. And we had the feeling that in Europe, and I'm talking about countries that I know, such as Hungary or France, there's this wrong idea, or so we feel, that the Holocaust is a closed chapter. And we do not believe that it is a closed chapter. So we wanted to reopen the chapter in another way and to engage the audience and to make them aware that we are, at least in Europe, and I'm sure, and families in the United States as well, we're still very much hunted. And that was one of, yes, indeed. I mean, I do feel empathy with the character, but if you felt like you were there, that's really good enough for me.
Thank you. Another question? How long, before we go to that, how long did it take to make this film, from beginning to end?
Well, from the first moment Laszlo read the book, 10 years. But from the time he came to me and said, I know the story, 5.
5 years.
There was a very long post-production process, actually. The work on the sound took 5 months,
Wow.
which was longer than the shooting. Because the shooting was 28 days. I mean, we didn't have a lot of, we didn't have a big budget. So there was a lot of discipline during the set and during the shooting. And actually, you were mentioning earlier the 35, and it's, I don't think I need to quote Laszlo very much on this, but you know that for him and for the whole of his team, film is extremely important. It's really the magic of cinema. The image is not steady, it's alive, and that was very important. But at the same time, on the set, which was extremely interesting, that it gives an extreme discipline to everyone, because opposite to recording on DVDs, well, you can't make 50 shoots of one scene. You can't have 50 takes. You have to be very focused, and that gave a very important discipline to the whole team.
Thank you. That's actually very interesting.
Could you,
Do we have
Yes.
another question?
could you comment on the ambiguity of the ending Was it your intention to demonstrate the uncertain fate of escapees into the forest, whether the home army, the partisans?
Oh, I don't think it was ambiguous, but
Or-
someone here wants you to comment on what he feels was the ambiguity of the ending, and
No, in terms of who was responsible for, is she setting up an intention to demonstrate how difficult it was for escapees to join the resistance, whether the home army would, or the partisans or the Nazis?
the partisans, the Nazis, the encounter in the forest? What
part
was
of the historical?
what was the significance for you? Is that what you want to know?
Yeah, I
You
want to
wanna-
know if that was part
okay.
of the historical intention. of
Okay.
the-
Historically, what would have been? I mean, my take on that was that they died in search of the partisans, in search of some sort of relief from their situation. But because we didn't see them actually shot down, is that why? Oh, okay. And the boy, symbolically, the boy, I would think.
Yes, I think it was important to break away from the point of view of Shaul in the end. For, let's say, 3 reasons maybe. Well, the first one is that somehow when he loses the body in the river, but then he sees this almost fantastic little boy. You know, this little boy is a Polish peasant. He has military shoes, you know. He lives around Auschwitz, because that's the Polish name of the village next to Auschwitz. And he sees this man, you know, and he gets scared. I mean, there's this strange man who's actually smiling at him. And he runs away, and you follow the boy. And I think it was important first because somehow Shaul, after seeing this boy, is symbolically he's dead. He's somewhere else. So we can't be in his point of view anymore. Second, I think, but that's one interpretation, and any other is as relevant as mine, because we also left some possibilities of interpretation for the viewer. Second, maybe because this little boy who sees only this of what was going on, it's probably the only thing that he will see as a witness. And, you know, and he runs away, and somehow is a potential future for Europe. You know, the last image, there are big trees, but I don't know if you noticed, there are little trees as well, just in front of the big trees. So I think somehow it's about, you know, the next generations, what you do with what you've seen, the little that you've seen. And then I guess it's also good to have some sort of final respiration somehow. You need to, there's no point in staying with Shaul until he's physically destroyed. Because of course he is physically destroyed. With everyone else in the hut,
Right. Which is what I took away from that, and now it's been confirmed. But other questions? One last question.
Has
over
the
here.
film been shown in Europe, and what was the reaction if it has been?
Okay, I know that you won the top. I know that you won the top prize at Cannes. Can you talk first about what that experience was like? What the audience.
So we didn't win the top prize, we won the second best,
Second best is good.
which was already amazing because you have to imagine, I mean, it's the first feature of a Hungarian director where most of us were beginners. The actor who's not an actor, but a poet. It was my first screenplay. It was the first editing of our editor, the first cast of our cast director. So we didn't have big stars in the film. We had an international cast, you know, it was German and Polish and one Israeli actors. Actually, there's even an American actor, the man who plays the fake rabbi, you know, at the end. He's American, and so it was. I'm not going to be blasé. It was magical. There was something almost spiritual to it. I never imagined it would go there, and it was fantastic. Also, what is fantastic is to work with Laszlo is to work with a team, and that's a fantastic experience because we were together, and it was fantastic because a very big part of the team was in Cannes, and it was great to share with the actors and the team. You know, the whole technical team. You know, it was magical, seriously, and we're happy that the film has this career, and we hope it's going to be seen by many people. And yeah, I feel grateful, obviously,
Outside of the
to be part of
festival,
this.
yeah, we're grateful to you. But outside of the festival, I think the question was, has it been seen in Europe, anywhere else? I mean, I think, Professor, I think you've seen it. Did you see it in Hungary or here?
No, here.
Oh, you saw it here, but someone here had seen it in Hungary.
Yes, it was released last June, and it was extremely successful, opposite to what one could possibly expect. I mean, the film is still enjoying quite huge audience, and it's good because it also steered a debate about the past that was needed, I think. So it's great, and now it's just been released in France, and it's going to be released in several other countries soon, and in the United States in December, if I know correctly. So yes, it's fantastic that that it can be seen in so many countries, and we're very happy that it can be shown as well in the United States.
What time is it where you are right now?
It's 3:40 a.m.
I think we're going to let you get some sleep now, and the audience is going to. We thank you so much for the sacrifice you made to share your insights.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question, I'm sorry.
So now
I've been trying to ask this question from the beginning.
we have.
Excuse me?
What do we have? Okay, Professor, please ask your questions. We have some time. We're not. The 10 o'clock news is still going to be on, and you'll still make it. For those of you who want to stay. Would you tell us the focus of your research has been on this period of time? Would you like to talk about how this film relates to your own work?
I am dealing with different professional groups during the Holocaust, and one book already appeared about lawyers. Recently, I am writing a book about doctors. What was very interesting and still keeps me going is that...
Excuse me one moment. Please, if you're going to leave, would you mind leaving quietly so that the rest of us here can have a conversation? Thank you. Okay, please continue.
That doctors had a very, very strong commitment. Maybe I am prejudiced, but stronger than any other professional groups. What I mean that they were inmates during the Holocaust, and they also treated patients even in conditions where there was no medicine, and they made teas, and they were talking. They knew that their presence means hope. So it's fascinating, and what is beautiful that I am receiving letters from all around the world, and you know, we are running in our life, we are very busy, and the project itself creates a cohesion between people I never knew, and I receive names and connections who were there, and, you know, giving light to certain moments that you cannot read in any library. So that is beautiful. But before we go, I just wanted to say a few words about what the film was showing, that the historical fact about the revolt is that it was November 7, 1944, and when the Sonderkommando's active part came to know that next day will be the liquidation, that was what triggered the revolt. And what happened, we saw girls in the manufacture, and they, in small dosages, send to the Sonderkommando equipment to prepare for the revolt. And what happened during the revolt was that few hundred people escaped. As we know, around 100 escaped and was not killed. One German Jew went even to Berlin, and that's a fact. The other thing is that the women who were in the how do you say, the factory, in January, I think 14 was hanged. 3 officers, German officers, were killed, and maybe one of the biggest fact is that one crematorium, the 4th crematorium, was destroyed. So that's what happened. And this Sonderkommando, from 2 until 4 months, the Sonderkommando staff was liquidated. First, it was around 400 Sonderkommando men, but by the end, somehow it became 800 and sometimes even 1,000 men. Their first task was to liquidate the previous group. The reason was that Germans did not want to leave any memory about this work, and usually they were waiting for the new transport. They carried them to the gas, and after shaving them and take the tools out, and that was a regular task, and collecting valuables, and as we see, it was a trade. If you could have something, you could later on exchange for goods.
It was a big business.
It was a big business.
It was a huge business. What was going on there? Were you not impressed with the fact that this was, we read about it, but to actually see it in motion, the way they characterized it and portrayed it, that this was as much of a factory, and they were referred to as Stück, pieces, not bodies, not people, pieces. So this was a factory of death, and Henry Ford could have admired the efficiency with which this thing was carried out. But
I just wanted to wrap up, what we know about it, and that was, as we already discussed, more personal approach to Holocaust than any other film before. So.
well, thank you very, very much for being with us. I appreciate
thank you for inviting me.
It was our pleasure.
It was wonderful.
And thank you all for staying for the conversation.